Hey there everyone, this is KT, here to answer the questions you guys left in the question and answer video. Real quick, I want to highlight that the channel has been doing exceptionally well since that Ore video. I'm not sure what the deal was because the algorithm to me seems to be favoring Pokemon champions, so why my video on a Gen 3 VGC format is doing well is quite the mystery. But whatever the case, things are going up, and I have you guys to thank for that, so I appreciate it. So starting off with our first question, we have Shiny Pokemon Hunts just says, congratulations. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Next question is from Lavender Town Tavern. 2 questions. 1, what type would you use for a mono Pokemon team, and is there a Pokemon you would base it around? 2, what is your favorite breakfast food? So for a mono team, I wonder if you mean like shiny hunting specifically or just like a challenge run in one of the games. I did one mono type run of Gen 1, which was poison type. I remember having Beedrill, Venusaur, and Gengar, and Tentacruel, and those guys were able to stomp the entire region handily. If you mean like to hunt a mono team, I haven't ever really considered it. I would say that Psychic is my favorite type, so I'd probably pick Psychic. And I will throw up 6 of my favorite Psychic types on the screen. Insert the clip here about the breakfast food joke. Next question from JG asks, from all the shiny hunts you did by now, which one did you like the most? I think the biggest reaction I've ever had, the most I've ever popped off, was when I was hunting for Feebas. Because Feebas, behind the shadow, looks identical to when it's shiny and when it isn't. So I had just enough time to scrutinize it, and then when I actually saw it reveal, it was the shiny Pokemon, and I had the biggest explosive reaction I've ever had. So that was a really fun one. I think all the ones in the Safari Zone are really fun because the encounters are so damn quick. I really liked that one where you have to go to Route 130 with the nail glitch and you can spawn grass tiles to force encounters with Wynaut. A very dubiously legal shiny, but that was a super fun one to set up. From Chris DSI, congrats on 100. Well, thanks. I don't really have any questions, though I've always been curious on how you record your gameplay. So, I use a capture card called a GV-USB2. It's a entry-level capture card. The thing is advertised for converting VHS tapes and DVDs to digital, but most speedrunners, most like entry-level new beginner speedrunners will be suggested this capture card because it's very cheap. I have that plugged into a video splitter. The video splitter is plugged into a bunch of old consoles which are connected to a CRT TV. So that's how I record. Glowing Werewolf asks, what's your dream Pokemon team? I assume we're not talking about like competitive viability. Though funnily enough, Magneton and Claydol are 2 of my favorites, and they have a very interesting synergy in competitive. Obviously, we have to have Poliwhirl. He's my favorite Pokemon in the franchise. I think I would then add Kadabra and Heracross, then Milotic, Claydol, and Magneton. A bit water weak, I'm realizing. Or sorry, I'm piling on water types. I'm very electric weak, but that's we're not talking about competitive viability. From Eddie is just a bunch of party emojis. I feel the same. Very cool. Next question. Can you play Pokemon Platinum Kaizo? Well, I'm not a big fan of Pokemon ROM hacks, and I'm also not really a fan of Generation 4. So while I'm not going to say never, I would not count on that happening anytime soon. Sorry, pal. From Paul Baker asks, favorite vacation you've taken? Much love, friend. Well, I appreciate that. Just a few months ago, I visited Australia for the first time because my friend was attending a wedding, and he is a longtime friend of mine online, and he had some other guys that were going to be meeting there. So it was like a fun meetup excuse. Fun excuse to have us all visit Sydney for a little bit. Very cool. Would recommend. Just passing by says much love. I feel the exact same way. And then he asks, can you show off your army of Poliwhirl Poliwag? frogs. Yes, I will. You want to see the frogs? Alright, check them out. Here we have the Pokeball, and then we got the Great Ball, and we got the Ultra Ball. Now this one is a Politoed because the IVs actually really kick ass, so I've EV trained this guy and have been having a lot of fun using it in the tower. Very, very good Politoed. Then we got this one in the Master Ball. And I want to give one shout out to Defuse. This one has gotten me a lot of victories in the Battle Tower as well, just because he has very defensive stats. I am aware he is not shiny, but Defuse, we still like Defuse. Peter asks, do you plan on doing any collaborations? Content is always fun with multiple personnel involved. Yes, I chatted with Beaveries about one idea for a video. It's just a little bit tricky to turn it into a collaborative video. We'll have to shoot the idea a little bit more. I also chat with Amaryllis about a different idea for almost like a stream race. It's quite hard to coordinate since all of us are working and all of us live in different time zones, but I'm sure something will come out at some point. So yes, there's nothing planned, there's nothing concrete right now, but there are talks about doing collaborative videos. Chiefs asked, Massive W. What's your most anticipated or wanted shiny that you don't have yet? Oh. See, this one's a tricky one to answer because I've mentioned before I had a memory card slip up back in 2024, so I feel like there's a handful of shinies that I love and need to reclaim that I still haven't. Like I had a Mewtwo, an Aerodactyl, a Claydol, a Mawile. So every now and then I think about how cool it would be to get one of those back. And that feels like it would be the highest priority, even though it's not like a new Pokemon. It's not a new shiny for me. I think completing the Poliwhirl quest, that probably should be my biggest priority. Yeah, I'll say that. Sorry if that's like a cop-out answer, or not very satisfying. Yeah, there's shinies I want to reclaim from back in the day, and then there's the collection of Poliwhirl, Poliwag and Poliwhirl. Caden asks, what's the craziest random shiny you have ever gotten Gen 3? So, I have discovered I have an early shiny frame in Emerald. My main Emerald file has an early shiny frame. It's like 7 seconds after launch. I did a stream, well, so when I found it, I was streaming, and then the next day I did a stream where I just tried to mimic my motion when I found the Pokemon, and I was able to hit the frame on countless routes. So that's pretty cool. However, where this gets really weird is that I have another early, like, soft reset shiny. It's a Latias, and it's not the same nature. It can't be the same gender. So I have no idea what the deal is with that Latias. Because I was just resetting to get it one with good IVs. I wanted to get one with a good nature and good IVs. But she just appeared yellow on like my 6th attempt, and that doesn't make any sense for Emerald because Emerald's RNG is all messed up. So that Latias is very perplexing. I have no idea what the deal is with her. Definitely the craziest shiny I've ever stumbled across by accident. Caden also asks, what trainer class would you be if you had to choose? You would not believe how hard it is to get a hold of all of the sprites from Gen 3 for the trainer classes. I think it's probably a toss-up between this guy with the electric cable or maybe the Psychic from Fire Red. I think those two are my favorite. The Coffee Bar asks, what is your favorite battle facility? I quite like the Dome. I think the Dome is probably the best for shiny hunters because they have warped IVs and there's no accounting for the strategy part. The Pokemon that they bring versus what you bring is always an interesting decision. So being kneecapped by whatever bad IVs you rolled and the AI having less than ideal IVs, I think the Battle Dome is a great facility. The Pyramid I think is super fun. The Pike I really like. I think really it's just the other two. The two that nobody likes, which is the Palace and the Arena. Really don't care for those two. I'm also not a fan of the Factory, to be honest. But the other facilities I think are great, and I would say that the Dome is my favorite. Professor Shrub asks, if you had to pick one starter line of each type, what would it be? Just based on how much you like them, not necessarily battle prowess. Well, my favorite starter is Torchic, undoubtedly. I guess that's what happens when you pick Torchic your first time in Ruby, is that starter will just imprint on you for forever and be your favorite. I basically always gravitate towards the fire types. It's not until Gen 4 that the fire type is not my favorite. I don't really like any of the Gen 4 starters, to be honest. And by Gen 5, I think it's fully shifted, where my favorite is the grass. Yeah, one from each line. So Torchic covers fire for us. Maybe take Swampert for the water representative, and then the grass serpent from Gen 5. I don't even know what his name is. Just as an added little bonus here, I threw together a starter tier list. You guys can argue with me for forever. This is correct. And then as a very last minute addition, Super Flash asks, is it a preference that you play on a Japanese language game? No, it is actually budgetary. The Japanese copies of Pokemon games are significantly cheaper than their English counterparts. If you want to get an English copy of Colosseum, it costs like 3 times as much, 2 or 3 times as much. So I would strongly suggest, if you're able to, well, for starters, if you're familiar with the game. If you've beaten Ruby before, you can probably beat Ruby in Japanese, not really knowing every single item you pick up. It's not that hard to figure your way through the game. And once you get to Fire Red and Emerald, those games have icons for the items. So you can just see, oh, I picked up this Hyper Potion, I picked up X Accuracy, whatever. So those games make it even easier. The only caveat I would say is that you probably want to play with battle animations turned on. That is a pretty big help to figure out what moves are going off. It's not too hard to figure out what moves are which, just looking at them in the menu, but I can understand it turning off a lot of players. I do think it's worth doing though. Especially if you're a shiny hunter and you want to use multiple systems, getting Japanese games feels like a must. So I hope that answered everyone's questions. I really appreciate all the support I've been getting on this channel, and I have some fun stuff coming up very soon. If you have any follow-ups, or if you're confused by what I said, just definitely let me know. And I appreciate you guys watching.